Welcome to the official Warrior podcast from Max. I'm Lisa Ling, a journalist and a Warrior superfan.
And I'm Hoon. You may know me as the actor that some have claimed is the best character on the show, Chow, the friend to everyone, and I'm also a writer on the series.
He is our favorite. And as your host, we will be breaking down every episode of Warrior Season 3, and we'll learn more about how this incredible new season came together through interviews with the creators, cast, and crew. We'll also be discussing the very real historical events and people that inspired the characters and stories of Warrior, including Bruce Lee, whose writings inspired the entire series.
Today, we're diving into Episode 3, No Time for Fucking Chemistry, written by Evan Endicott and Josh Stoddard, our showrunners. We'll be joined by the one and only Andrew Koji, who, as you all know, plays Ah Sahm. We'll talk about how Ah Sahm has changed since Season 1, and what's it like for Andrew to embody one of the most celebrated martial artists in history, Bruce Lee. But before we get started, there will be spoilers, so go watch Episode 3 on Max before listening. Are you doing it? Go do it. You know, Lisa Ling?
Yes.
One of my first scenes with Andrew Koji was basically Chow selling Ah Sahm to the Hopway in Season 1.
Yeah, and what do you think he thought of Ah Sahm at that moment? Do you think he would have ever thought that he would become the leader that he became?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, outside of his raw animal magnetism, I don't think Chow was thinking much beyond that.
Well, by Season 3, he's no longer just an indentured hatchet man for the Tong.
No, he's someone who's rising in his own power and starting to make waves throughout the community.
I really want to know how Andrew is going to take the writings of Bruce Lee and make them his own in this last season.
I don't think that's really allowed due to most copyright laws, but still. I think that Bruce Lee wrote the character of Ah Sahm for himself, so what we're seeing now is our best attempt to take that idea and bring it to life in a modern context with a very, very capable lead, Andrew Koji.
Let's go.
So, we've got a few different threads going this episode. The Hopway's counterfeiting operation continues, with Chow playing both sides in a molasses deal between the Hopway and Happy Chow. Ah Sahm is uneasy about the counterfeiting, and he and Youngjun clash over the way Youngjun is leading the Hopway.
Printing was supposed to be a solution, not the solution. We should be using the chop to buy more soldiers, not booze and whores.
Then you better hurry.
Why?
Cash won't matter if there aren't any soldiers left to buy. I think just absorbed another dog.
Ah Sahm seeks out Mai Ling and warns her not to get too ambitious, but Mai Ling reminds him that he doesn't need to go down with Youngjun and the Hopway. Mai Ling continues in her quest to expand her empire outside of Chinatown, but Liang is starting to feel left behind as she does more and more in the pond on her own. Mai Ling makes a splash at the art gallery and is introduced to Eliza's husband, banker Bernard Pendleton. So there's progress. We see Yan Mi and Ah Sahm spending more time together, and the chemistry is really beginning to rev up. And as Yan Mi continues to print money for the Hopway, she makes her distaste for this job clear to Ah Sahm, telling him that she saw him at the riot, thought he was there to save them, but was later disappointed when she found out he was Hopway.
You came in like some avenging angel, here to save us. But then you come to my shop with Youngjun to collect, and I realize you're not an angel or a warrior. You're just some magic man.
Meanwhile, up in Sonoma, Strickland tries again to get Nellie to sell her land, and even after he threatens to expose her relationship with Ah Toy, Nellie refuses, believing that her lawyers can protect her. But Ah Toy isn't so sure. And in fact, by the end of the episode, Strickland's men have set fire to the grapevines, brutally attacked the compound, and killed many of the girls, leaving the whole place in flames. In this episode, we're also getting a glimpse into the relationship that Tongs have with some of the everyday Chinese people in Chinatown, the people that are being hit hardest by these ordinances.
We protect our own.
You know, one of you said the exact same thing to my father. We missed one payment and you beat him.
That wasn't me.
You wear the same suit.
I'm intrigued by the relationship between Ah Sahm and Yan Mi, the daughter of the printer.
Well, that's the tricky thing, right? The Tongs have to offer protection, but when the Tongs end up being the force that is imposing their will upon the people, who protects them from that, So that's one of the things that Youngjun is wrestling with, and it's the sort of thing that's starting to weigh on the conscience of Ah Sahm.
And Mai Ling seems to be really interested in this idea of leaving Chinatown and seeing how far her power can extend beyond Chinatown.
That's right. And I think there's something in the psychology of Mai Ling that always needs to increase that border of safety around her. So it only seems natural that she would take this advantage that she has and try to leverage it even beyond the confines of what she knows.
And this season, she's going to really try to do that. She seems to have made friends with members of the white society through socialites like Eliza Pendleton, and we'll see how far she can take it, how much they will respect her.
That's true. There's a risk there, of course, because as we know, the tensions haven't subsided. We've just come off the back of season 2 where there was this massive riot. The question is, what happens in this new reconfigured space after all of that violence has broken out?
All right, I am so excited to get into it with your co-star, Andrew Koji.
I am too. Andrew is a fantastic colleague. He's an actor of tremendous dedication, devotion. He has completely taken on all of the challenges of this role. And I'm really so excited for the people out there to hear how Andrew processes the playing of Ah Sahm and all of the things he has to go through in order to bring that avatar to life. We mentioned this character was written by Bruce Lee for himself to play, so, no pressure.
Yeah, and I do want to ask him how he channeled Bruce Lee in some of these incredible fight scenes, and we will find out soon enough. Andrew Koji grew up in Epsom, Surrey, England. His father is Japanese and his mother is English. And as an actor, he studied at the Actors Temple in London. And as a martial artist, he trained in Kyokushin Karate, Taekwondo, Shaolin Kung Fu, and Wing Chun Kung Fu.
Also in Smoldering Eyes technique, of which he is a 7th degree black belt.
Oh, beyond.
I'm sorry, am I blacking out? Anyway. He was a stuntman for the Fast and the Furious 6. He played Storm Shadow in Snake Eyes and Yuichi the Father Kimura in Bullet Train.
So, Hoon, I'm going to be having a conversation with Andrew shortly, but you got to spend 3 seasons with him. Anything you think the audience would like to know about what he was like on set, who he is?
I think something that people would be surprised by with Andrew is that he's not at all the sort of deeply sort of intense, brooding, serious person. This is so true for so many of the people. He's got a really playful spirit when he's not completely exhausted from the demands of the job. And I actually think that sense of humor and that sense of playfulness really helps sort of fuel a lot of the deep drama that his character has to endure, not only in the scenes themselves, but also in the fights. I think we're very lucky to have somebody that is actually as physically adept as he is, but he was always hired for his dramatic skills. Sometimes with a show like this, people maybe make the assumption that the physical aspect is the first thing that people look towards when they're casting. And he trained all of that up. That really speaks again to his work ethic. So we got very lucky.
Yeah, I'm just recounting how Brett Chan said that he would train like 6 hours a day.
We had to tell him to stop. I say we, but in terms of, production, his friends. I remember having a conversation with him and, we both agreed that, you could potentially create a problem. If you pull a hamstring, if you get sick and suddenly we can't shoot, it's a problem, It has to be tempered by a sort of pragmatic realization of what are the requirements of the job.
Well, I'm excited to dig into it with him. Andrew Koji, welcome to the Warrior Podcast. So great to see you.
Thank you, Lisa. Nice to see you too.
Season 3. What was it like?
Yeah, it was quite an intense experience. I think it's quite challenging in different ways, picking up something that we'd kind of let go, like emotionally, physically. And we moved on. What was it, two and a half years since season 2? So
yeah, so much time had elapsed since the ending of season 2. So what was it like to inhabit Ah Sahm again so many years later?
For me, it was good. I mean, because season 1 in particular, I think that was me learning a lot of things, and you don't really understand the show you're making at the time. You haven't seen the edits, you haven't seen the music soundtrack they're using, the light, you haven't seen it all come together. And I think with episodic TV, it's not like a film and this is the character's journey from beginning, middle, and end. It's ever kind of evolving. So you never quite feel like you've cracked the character or you really understood it. You're figuring it out as you go along. And then obviously by each season you have more of a firm grasp on the character. So Season 3, I felt good because I think I'd done a few films in between, and I'd managed to learn more and to see more from different people, and just essentially just learn more from that and apply that to season 3. So for me, it kind of felt a relief that I could do it again and hopefully do it better.
Did you approach Ah Sahm differently than you had in previous seasons?
It's not like a huge different approach, because obviously there's certain characteristics that you can't change. So this season it was more like I knew more who he was, I knew which tools to use. I had more experience and understanding, more belief in myself. Season 1, like I was doing a lot of backstory research and figuring out who he was before. But now you've got season 1 and 2, which serves as the backstory. You've got 2 seasons of work you can kind of go off from, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And before we actually plunge into this particular episode 3 of season 3, I want to just go back to the beginning. I mean, your character, Ah Sahm, is the central figure in the series, and he's the character that Bruce Lee actually wrote for himself. So how did you get involved with the series to begin with?
I was just an actor who'd been struggling for over 10 years, trying to figure it all out, trying to see if I wanted to still do it, because I was about to call it quits. And it seems to be, the more I talk to more experienced, established actors, it's like that's normally when those.
So you thought about quitting acting altogether before you got this role?
Yeah, I mean, I was in a very dark place before season 1, because life wasn't going the way I envisioned. I'd finished this terrible play where all the actors were like, rebelling, giving up, quitting. Some people dropped out, and it was like a mess of a play. And the theatre in London isn't really paid that well. And it was, and then you do 3 months there and then nothing for a couple months. I was approaching 30 and I was just thinking I can't do this anymore because it was just too much of a struggle. So I was driving back home to see Mum to think my whole life choices. And I remember stopping at this McDonald's and got the phone call from my old agent at the time about the show, and I didn't think I was the right for it at all. So, but then Mum convinced me to audition and all that. So it all changed after that.
Why did she think that this could be kind of a game changer, or why did she push you to go out for this particular project?
She just thought it might be fun. I remember her just, I was just going, no, Mum, I think I'm not going to do it. I'm not right for this. It's not. No. And she went, oh, come on, it'll be fun. We'll bring your camera out, and we filmed it in my garage, in her garage, in the thing. And Mum was reading our toys lines, talking about sticky and room full of whores. I think there was like a bit where a toy's supposed to nod, and so Mum every time was just like, let me nod, and she just nodded like that. So I was trying to not laugh with that. So yeah, it was Mum who kind of like, or listening to Mum kind of changed it. And it wasn't at the time, it wasn't the warrior that we knew it to be. It was just another job, another potential.
And Andrew, if I can ask, was the fact that you were Asian, did that have anything to do with why you didn't possibly want to continue acting? Did you feel sort of stuck in that there weren't as many roles available to you as an Asian actor?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that was a big part. And also me being English, or very Western really, growing up in the West, and I never perceived myself really as too Asian. I mean, there was, bullying in school and all that stuff, but it was the industry which I started to feel really Asian, because once I started auditioning, then all of a sudden, I have to put on the accent, I have to be all these cliche kind of roles, being told how to do that by Caucasian people. And it's like, I was just thinking, I can't keep doing this. What for? There's no future, really. But this is obviously before this big, huge diversity movement that's helped change things.
So you're on the verge of quitting acting, but yet you get this role as Ah Sahm. When do you think you really started to connect with Ah Sahm and really the entire concept of warrior?
Oh, I don't know about the entire concept, but Assam, I just have this kind of belief. I believe that things happen for a reason, or at least if that's not true, that I think we can find a reason to things that have happened or happening to us. So I was thinking, I don't know, I just felt like I had to start thinking about the character in a way that I think Bruce probably would have wanted anyone who was going to step in to play Assam to put their own spin on it, to make it personal to them. So, I mean, I guess I understood there was I had a lot of anger in me, a lot of rage built up, and it was very kind of a visceral kind of thing. So at the time, I hadn't been doing martial arts from 20 to 30, or 29 really, when we shot Warrior. I hadn't trained that much because I didn't want to be the martial arts guy. And so I kind of rebelled against that. But then as I had to go through the training and kind of, I guess, I knew that on a personal level, regardless of the skills, that would be something that I can only do my best for, the physical skills stuff. It was like on an emotional, personal level. I was like, Ah Sam, he feels like an outsider. I felt like an outsider a lot of my life. So that was one primary thing that I understood. And he's coming here and trying to be amongst people to survive that he doesn't really belong to and belong with. So, I mean, the feeling of belonging, like, yeah, I guess for me as an English London lad, you know, I got in a few scraps, so I used to get in, you know, probably a bit of a different version of a bit of an Assam in my life.
So you really personally identified with Ah Sahm.
Yeah, but on an emotional kind of core level, I guess, yeah. At the time, as season one was being written, I think even JT didn't really quite know who Assam would be or become. You know, he was coming off the boat. It's like, well, you know, Assam's looking around at everything, and it's like he's taking it all in. And he's seeing this kind of foreign world. And I remember Justin Lin, he after we shot the pilot, he emailed me or called me, and he said, "I can see the work you're doing." He said, "Yeah, you're bringing this, you're making this personal. You know, you're taking it all in like the first time." I was like, "Well, I am. I mean, this is Andrew taking everything in. This is a huge set, biggest set I've been on, with a bunch of, you know, responsibility and suddenly all these kind of things on your shoulders." And you know, it was literally a similar-ish journey. Art reflects life, life reflects art kind of thing.
And Andrew, before the role started, did you by chance go back and watch a bunch of Bruce Lee films or study up on him? Or did you try to just kind of make this your own from the get-go?
No, I mean, there was a lot of, you know, I bought a bunch of his books. I read up on his whole, I think the biography came out of him at the time. Watched a bunch of his films. And I still do that in between, or before we shoot a season, just to try and get any little mannerisms or gestures that I can throw in there throughout the season.
And as you're doing this research and watching these films and reading his books, what are you thinking of this man? What are you thinking of Bruce Lee, who, you know, has become one of the most beloved figures, not just in Asian American history, but he's beloved around the world?
Yeah, he's an icon, and I think what impressed me the most was his depth. I mean, his physical skills were phenomenal. I mean, like the depth of his soul and how intelligent he was and how fierce he lived. I mean, I've always compared him to like a Mozart. He's like the Mozart of martial arts and the physical, like he just a savant level kind of understanding and application. Yeah, so I think, after getting the role and it was like my respect for him deepened a lot.
Well, in season 3, we open with kids staring at Assam. And then shortly after, we see that 10-foot tall painting of him on the side of a building in Chinatown. And he has become famous or infamous, depending on who you ask. Assam has become this hero figure in Chinatown, but he is not the leader of the Hapway. Do you think that he has any aspirations of leading the Tong? Because he could. I mean, he's a hugely popular figure in Chinatown and even among the Tong.
Yeah. I think he had probably thoughts of it in season 2. I think now he's thinking a bit different. I mean, I don't think he's got the understanding or necessarily the feeling of loyalty to the Tong the same way Young Jun does. He probably has more the smarts than Young Jun does, but I think him joining the Tong was a means to an end, which was to try and get his sister back. So he wouldn't want to lead it just to lead it. But I think once he sees the injustices of the people in season 2, maybe there's a few thoughts of him doing what could he do in a position, in a leadership position.
Yeah, he's starting to question
Yeah.
the Tong, but particularly Young Jun, because of the threats that he makes to ordinary people in Chinatown. And there's this uncomfortable tension that's unfolding between Young Jun and Ah Sahm. And both Atoy and Mai Ling, they seem to be saying to Ah Sahm, you're better than this, or you can choose to be better than this. But how much of a choice do you think Ah Sahm actually has?
I think in this world, the world of Warrior, choice isn't, to him at least, very apparent. It's a world of where the immigrants, Irish, Chinese, African American, they're all having a hard time. So I think survival is the kind of forefront of his and everyone else's mind. Choosing to be better than this, I think it's more probably that they know he isn't really a Tong member. It doesn't really belong there. So it's in a different life, maybe be presented to him, then maybe that's when a choice could be made. But right now, yeah, it's not there.
Do you think Ah Sahm is really starting to think about life outside of Chinatown early on here in season 3? Do you think he's sort of thinking that there could be a possibility? I mean, he speaks perfect English. He presumably can navigate outside of this world.
Yeah. I think so, yeah. But at the same time, I think that the atrocities of the riot in season 2, I think he does have some feelings of obligation and loyalty, as maybe a warrior should, because I think the idea of a warrior is that they fight to protect people. So I think there's probably some resistance to leaving right now.
It might be me, but it seems like you're channeling more of Bruce Lee's fighting style in season 3. Is that a fair assumption on my part?
Yeah, I think there's the closer it comes to the end of the show, whenever that is, I think that's intentional, trying to make him kind of more the Bruce Lee that legend, the icon that he was. Yeah, so there's implementing that bit by bit.
I want to go back to something you said when we first started the interview, which is that you didn't want to be the martial arts guy before you started Warrior. You were kind of trying to resist, if I'm inferring correctly, perpetuating these tropes about Asian men in the media. How do you feel now, 3 seasons into Warrior, which some have called the best martial arts television show ever created?
How do I feel? I think it's for me it's like, if there's good story and character work and it's done with integrity and it's not done just for a nonsensical, what do you call it?
It's not like a caricature.
Yeah, then I think I'm at peace with it. It's so strange as well. I was talking to my friend about, I grew up and trained in a time before this UFC boom happened. Everyone's doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now, and everyone's doing, think that UFC is cool, now. But I grew up in a time when it wasn't. Now it's different, now it's changed. So I think because of the understanding of martial arts, it's kind of expanded and widened. Like, I'm a bit more okay with it. For me as an actor, it's like, yeah, if it's done right, then I'm all right with it,
You said that you grew up feeling some conflict about your identity. You didn't feel completely Asian. You struggled because people challenged you about being of mixed race. But do you think being part of this show has helped you embrace your Asian identity more?
Yeah, 100%. I think, and also I think the family from Warrior, and I think we all feel a bit like underdogs. I think we're all actors who've just been putting in the graft and trying our best. And I think so. I think we're a bit more at peace with it. I think especially if we're trying to put out content which, maybe it doesn't show us in a negative light. I think there can be a bit of there's a few things. There's a whole journey around that. But yeah, I definitely feel more at peace with it now than before.
And that is it for us. Until next time, we'll be back with a new podcast after every new episode of Warrior, so come back for more as soon as you've watched episode 4. Next week, we'll be talking to Olivia Chang, who plays the badass and stylish Ah Toy. It's going to be so good. So stream new episodes of Warrior Thursdays only on Max, and listen to the podcast on Max and wherever you listen to podcasts.
The Official Warrior Podcast is a Max podcast produced by the Mashup Americans. It is executive produced by Amy S. Choi and Rebecca Lehrer. Our producers are Sarah Pellegrini and Thomas Liu. Our development producer is Nicole Kelly. Our production manager is Shelby Sandlin. The show is mixed by Pedro Rafael Rosado.